Hello, welcome back. If you can't tell, I am a little sick right now. I had my girlfriend's prom just last week, and there were a lot of people, and apparently some sort of cold spread around. It's not COVID, just like a little cold. And yeah, so my voice is a little nasally, but that's okay because we still need to do our movie power rankings of the month. I've changed up the format a little bit just to keep these videos short. What we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the new movies. We'll quickly mention the movies that are already on here, but we're not going to actually in-depth talk about them. We're only going to talk about the new additions, which this month I think there are 17 new movies that have been added to the list. The bottom of this list remains the same, with Blood and Honey just at the very bottom. Gonna stay there the entire year unless we somehow see a movie that's worse than that, but I doubt it. And after that, you get Peter Pan and Wendy, Ghosted, 65, Anise Men, Shazam! The Fury of the Gods, and then our first new addition to the list, Disney's original Crater. By the way, if you would like to see my thoughts on these previously mentioned movies and any other movies that have already been on the list, you can check out either of these two previous Power Rankings videos in the cards above. Anyways, Crater.
Seriously, guys, why is this blinking?
Probably because we're stealing it.
Crater is just a boring film, essentially. I mean, you got these kids and they're going through the moon and they're visiting these places and it's fine, but it just doesn't do anything that's really inventive and exciting. It's just sort of a boring journey on the moon. There's certain parts of this film where I just feel like they spent way too much time on it. Like at one point they're playing this game where they're shooting oxygen out of these rockets and flying around. They spend way too much time on that. They spend way too much time trashing this one apartment. I just feel like that there were these really exciting story elements that could have been explained more, especially towards the end, but they just don't do that. So yeah, that's why Crater's at 2 stars. After that, you have a lot of the same movies as before. Quantumania, When You Finish Saving the World, Magic Mike's Last Dance, Sick, Inside, Cocaine Bear, and Boston Strangler. But after Boston Strangler, we do have another new film in White Men Can't Jump, the Hulu remake of the original movie starring Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. Just really, why does this movie exist? It wasn't that exciting. Sure, the basketball was filmed in a cool way, but Jack Harlow can't really act. This movie just didn't really need to exist, and if you want to watch a form of this, just go and check out the classic. There's really no need for this movie. The basketball, sure, it's entertaining, but never do you really feel stakes because they don't edit it in a way where you're in any game enough for you to really feel stakes. Most of these games are edited like a montage in Rocky, which is good to build up for the final game. But literally, the final game in this movie was edited like a Rocky montage. We didn't actually get to watch the final game, which really is just such a disappointment. I wish that they built up some adversary characters that they had to play in this game, and then we have the game, and it's intense, and it's big, because that's what movies are supposed to do. Even though it's not realistic, per se, that's what movies do. And they just didn't do it, and as a result, made a mediocre at best remake. Next up is Fool's Paradise, which was one of my most anticipated movies of the month. And wow, what a disappointment this was for me. In my May movie preview, I did a top 3 most anticipated movies, and my number 3 was actually Fool's Paradise. I was really intrigued by the trailer. I thought, ooh, Charlie Day, directorial debut. This could be interesting. The cast looks interesting. The trailer looks funny. So then I go in to watch the movie, and I'm looking at Letterboxd, and I'm like, crap. It doesn't look like anybody is really vibing with this movie. And now, there are a few people that love this movie. Typically, it seems like you have people that love it, or you have people that just don't really care for it. I personally don't really care for it. I didn't find it funny, really, whatsoever. There was no point where I laughed out loud or even chuckled. And I think that's a little sad, because this movie was obviously going for laughs and going for chuckles, and to not get any of that is a big letdown, especially from Charlie Day, who's a genuine funny comedian. But credit where credit is due, this movie is wholesome and the cinematography is fantastic. This movie looks beautiful and is sort of trying to be like a Wes Anderson-y type movie, but still putting its own spin on it, which I appreciated, but that just wasn't enough to make up for the fact that this was supposed to be a funny movie that wasn't funny at all. Following those up, we have Sword Art Online Scherzo and the Kara Robinson story before we get to Hypnotic. I never expected much from Hypnotic the second I saw that it was being directed by Robert Rodriguez, who, if you don't know, is the director of Spy Kids movies, but also is just recently acclaimed for doing the terrible episodes of the Book of Boba Fett Star Wars series. He also did one pretty bad episode of The Mandalorian a few years ago. And just from my experience of watching those, I realized, oh, this will probably be just as bad or even worse because it has a worse budget than those. And I was completely right. This movie was not good whatsoever. It tries to be like all these Christopher Nolan movies and big blockbuster movies with half the budget at best. It honestly kind of feels like the CW version of Inception. I did actually really appreciate Ben Affleck in this movie, though. I thought he did everything he could to save it, but sadly, it just wasn't enough. Fast X is another newcomer to the list, and yeah, it adds to the biggest franchise of mediocrity that we have right now. What it has an abundance of celebrities, it lacks completely of creativity and real direction. To the credit of Fast X, though, Jason Momoa was amazing casting. He really elevated this film, and without him, it would really be way at the bottom. Sisu was marketed as this gory, bloody, action-packed thriller masterpiece type of film, and I did not get that whatsoever. Sure, the action was nice and kind of exciting, but I think it did an even worse job than the next film on our list, Renfield. And after Renfield, we finally get into 3-star territory with Plane, the Mario movie, 80 for Brady, Operation Fortune, Champions, Sharper, and Tetris. After Tetris, we have this one movie which I really can't believe made over $100 million at the box office, and that is A Man Called Otto. I know Tom Hanks is a movie star, but the fact he can sell that many tickets in 2023 is incredible, especially for a movie that is the definition of mediocrity. The thing with A Man Called Otto is that when it was good, I was really, really enjoying it, but for the most part, it was just okay. Most of the performances were just okay. And the messaging was just so in your face that it felt like you were getting knocked out in a boxing match. Next is Reality, which I really wish I liked more. Sydney Sweeney gives a great performance here as Reality winner, and something that's really interesting is that this movie takes place in real time. And because of that, this movie only just cracks above an hour and 20 minutes. I really appreciated that, and I just really appreciate short run times in general, but the issue is that this film still felt like it was 4 hours long and just such a slow burn where it wasn't even a good slow burn, and yeah, 3 stars. After Reality is a movie called Hunger, but then after that is the new Disney remake of The Little Mermaid. If you want more, go and check out my review in the cards above, because I really feel like I went very in-depth on my thoughts and feelings about The Little Mermaid there, and if you want to get all of that, just go watch that review. But in short, the musical numbers were excellent. I really liked the new songs, I liked the redoing of the old songs, except Under the Sea. I thought that was a little underwhelming, but everything outside of the music just wasn't really that great at all. It wasn't terrible by any means, but it was nothing impressive or really even that enjoyable. Also, they seriously missed out on an opportunity to end this film with a big musical number. Like seriously, I think if there was a big musical number at the end of this film and it was good, this would have been a 3.5 or 4-star remake for me. Following The Little Mermaid, we have Megan, 1001, Of an Age, Beau is Afraid, which should have a 3.5 out of 5, but I accidentally put 3 out of 5. My bad. Missing, Knock at the Cabin, Dungeons and Dragons, but then we have Polite Society. Polite Society is a movie that I just really appreciated for how self-aware it was. I really enjoyed Polite Society, and to me, a movie like this is a good popcorn movie. It's self-aware, it's funny, it's led by compelling and interesting characters, and the action is just so fun. I really wish more people went to see this movie while it was in theaters, or just even knew about this movie existing, because I think a lot of people would like it if they gave it a shot, especially younger people. After that, we have Infinity Pool, which dropped way down my list because I rewatched it and I just realized I didn't like it as much as I thought. Next up is The Artifice Girl, which is the definition of fantastic, low-budget filmmaking. It takes place over these 3 dialogue-heavy acts, which each act is pretty much just one scene, and the dialogue, especially in the first and second act, is really incredible stuff. I felt like I was just sitting there and was so incredibly invested in these first 2 acts, and listening to every word with every just bit of attention to detail I could muster. I also just have to applaud this film for originality, because its idea was so good and timed perfectly for what we have going on in society today. I really hope that writer, director, actor, and editor Franklin Rich just gets more work after this, because he is incredibly, incredibly talented. Moving on, we have Creed 3 before we get How to Blow Up a Pipeline. This movie was absolutely riveting. I felt like my eyes were just glued to the screen while watching everything going on, and the score behind it was just heart-throbbing. The entire ensemble here also just works wonders for this film, and I really can't wait to watch it again in these next few months. And just outside the top 10 is The Covenant. The Covenant was another riveting film where I really enjoyed the performances from Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim, but I also appreciated the action. It just didn't feel that glorified to me. You know, at one point they could have shown all of these explosions, but instead they just choose to show it from the camera used to, like, operate the weapon, causing them, which makes the explosions look a lot less epic than they would have if you actually showed them. And I think that's because this is an Afghan war film, you know, and the Guy Ritchie just didn't want to glorify the war. He didn't want to make it look like this cool thing, because the war in Afghanistan was not a cool thing. And I think for this film, for, in my opinion, to be respecting that is really admirable. But to also match that with great cinematography, a great score, great performances, and still good action that just didn't feel glorified, was a fun time. Also, the dialogue was still very Guy Ritchie-esque, especially at the start, which I really appreciated because I was afraid that going into this film, it just wouldn't feel like a Guy Ritchie movie, but it still does. And now for this month's top 10. At number 10, we have Scream 6. At number 9, we have what was actually my most anticipated movie of the month, BlackBerry. I think part of why I was so excited for this film is because of Succession. I was really just looking for anything to fill that void of a week without a new Succession episode, and BlackBerry really did the trick. Something I really like is the camera movement in this film, and personally, it's really inspired me as a filmmaker. While I was watching this film, I was looking at it and just like, damn, I want to shoot a movie like this. This is how I want to shoot a movie. It just looks so fun and exciting. And the story was really well put together with fantastic performances from both Jay Baruchel and Glenn Howerton. I also just think it had this perfect blend of comedy and drama that, most movies can't really hit. Typically, you either get too much of one or the other, and this movie just perfectly blends them, and I really appreciate that. At number 8, we have this fascinating documentary, Still. Still is just fascinating. It tells the story of Michael J. Fox's life, him developing throughout his career as an actor, and then him getting Parkinson's. And you see it throughout the film. You see him struggle with Parkinson's, and it's so raw and vulnerable, and you just look at it and you feel bad for him, but then you hear him talk, and it's just like, oh, he's this great guy, and you feel even worse. He's so humble, and he's a fantastic, fantastic storyteller. The editing is also really well done, as they were able to mesh all these movies he was in with what he was talking about in his life, and just the way that they were able to mesh together was just uncanny. And also, I just want to throw that out there that I did not know who Michael J. Fox was going into watching this documentary. I actually thought he was like a news anchor or something like that. I didn't realize that he was the guy that played Marty McFly, and even more importantly, he played Stuart Little. Like he was the voice of the Stuart Little. Next, Evil Dead Rise falls to number 7 because Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 takes its place at number 6. Sure, Volume 3 might be the clunkiest movie in the Guardians trilogy, and sure, it is by far the least funny of all of them, but when this movie is hitting, it is hitting on all cylinders and is literally the best thing that Marvel has ever had. The fights are spectacular, especially the hallway fight. The visual effects are stunning, which is a big thing to say for Marvel films because visual effects lately for them have been pretty terrible. I mean, look at Quantumania if you want an example of that. And really, every performance here, too, was great. Chris Pratt and Bradley Cooper are definitely the standouts in my opinion, because you have Bradley Cooper, who has this very obvious voice filter on as, a younger Rocket. But, it kind of grows on you. But aside from that, all these childhood Rocket scenes are really incredible. And the High Evolutionary in those scenes is amazing. I really like him in all the childhood scenes. Also, the screenplay just does a great job really tying everything up. So in the last scene, it was very earned when they played the song that they played, and I was absolutely bawling. And no, when I say bawling, I don't just mean teared up. I don't just mean 1 or 2 tears. I mean bawling. At 5, we have Rye Lane. At 4, we have Air. 3 is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. 2 is last month's number 1, John Wick Chapter 4. Number 1 is the Romanian film coming out of Cannes last year, R.M.N.
Hai să te învăț să faci apă.
I had the pleasure of watching R.M.N. 5 days ago, and I still can't stop thinking about it. The filmmaking here, the way that it was edited, and just the acting, and really everything, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. This, to me, is borderline masterpiece level filmmaking, and I'm really surprised that not a lot of other people think this way. People like this movie, people are saying that this movie is good, but people aren't saying that this is a masterpiece level film. This is definitely the first film of the year that I can say with lots of confidence will probably be making my top 10 at the end of the year. So actually about this movie, it's about this, or it takes place in this village in either it's like Transylvania or Romania. And you have all these people that are either Romanian or Hungarian. They either work with these or on these foreign contracts where they're going to other countries and working there and then just coming back home for the holidays, or they're just getting checks from the state and they're living off of those. So there's this bakery which makes all the bread and all just the baked goods for this town, and they need to hire workers, but they can't afford workers above minimum wage. So nobody in this town, because they are either just getting checks from the state or working in different countries, wants to work at this bakery. So they end up hiring people from, like somewhere around India or Asia. I don't know what the country was, but just somewhere around there, and they bring 3 guys in, and it's pretty much all about the town's reaction to this. And it was so moving and just breathtaking to me, and it just has to be seen to be believed, really. This film it's incredible. And I don't know when the next time I'll have the privilege to watch a film like this will be, because I don't think I've ever watched a film like this, period. I don't think it's a 5-star film yet. I'm gonna have to watch it a second time at some point, but I very well might be changing this rating to 5 stars at one point in my life. But it is definitely a 4.5-star film for now. And with that being said, to whoever is still watching, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I have been recording for over an hour and 20 minutes now, and hopefully have trimmed this video down to like 20 minutes or less. Hopefully, but probably not. We'll see, because I have absolutely no idea right now. If you've made it this far though, you might as well like and subscribe, because this is a very small channel and all your support really means so much. But I also want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on my power rankings? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And what movies do you think I should check out next? If you would like to watch another video, feel free to check out this one right here about my top 10 most anticipated movies for this coming June. And with that being said, take care, everyone.